But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem, Colton James, Survive the Spin, Effie Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Tiers Morgan, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Barely, J Mel's 24, Unimento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links to Patreon will be below this video. With that, I'll hand across to whoever is in Discord or G+, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. It's quiet in here. Hello, Dank. Hello, Neil.
Yo.
How's it going?
Everything is roses.
Very good. Check. Check 1, 2. Radio mic. Quite enough. Is this the same volume as my other mic? Looks like it. Jolly good. Definitely getting the mic withdrawal. So I've got no mics to make videos about. I've just got the mics I've got. The ones that I've got for sale, I've already got videos. So the only mics that I've got left that I could make videos about are ones that I've potentially sold before, but instead of the ones that I've sold before, they're the ones that I'm keeping, if that makes sense. So where I've made loads of mic videos about drum mics, like bass drum mics, boom, boom, boom. Well, I've got my own that I could make a video about. I think I've got a couple of them. And then I've got other mics that, like I say, I've sold, but haven't necessarily got a video about the one that I'm going to keep up. So I'm going to make a selection of videos that I'll call something like Nathan's Best Mics or something like that. And I'll put them out as the same exact format as all the others. So there's a consistency to them. It's just the title will change slightly. So it'll just be, this microphone is the Rode NTG3 or whatever it is I'm showing off, right? But the title will be Nathan's Best Mics, meaning that it's one that I'll actually end up keeping, because that kind of says a lot about something. If you flog it because you want to flog it for profit, which I did with most of the mics, I get to use it, try it, see if it's okay, and most times go nah, and then sell it, because I'm sure I said many times that I only buy stuff that I want or think will be good, that I'll want to use myself or keep. And then obviously you get it, test it and go, nah, it's all right, I'll just stick it on eBay and I'll buy the next one with the profits, right? Well, eventually you reach a point where you've got some that you do like legitimately think are good, and then you end up keeping those. The hope being that, and this is the case for most of them, you've sold enough of an equivalent mic or equivalent mics in that category to pay for it. That is to say, it will cost me nothing to own the bass drum mic I've got, because I've sold a dozen bass drum mics, and the profits from each of them add up to covering my mortgage and having enough to purchase a mic that essentially cost me nothing, or more likely keep a mic that was already purchased. Yeah, if that makes sense. So I buy them all with the thought that I'll buy this because I want to keep it. It's awesome. Yeah, that's the attitude towards every single thing I buy. So, you know, there aren't really any exceptions, but most of the time it's just I've got it and I go, no, I'm going to keep this one, as opposed to going out of my way to purchase it. There are a couple of exceptions where I've literally gone out of my way to purchase a specific mic. Sometimes I purchase stuff from Shure Direct because there's so many fakes out there. But for the most part, you know, I've bought it and then it's in stock available or on eBay. And then I've gone, you know what, I'm going to delist this. I'm going to keep it. So yeah, so I'll make a series of videos of all the mics that I will keep, and might be the case that 12 months from now I have to sell them because I'm poor and my book doesn't do too well. It might be the case that they sit in a flight case never being used because my girls don't develop any musical talent, or it might be the case that they all get dug out when they're bringing their greasy Grebo drummer over to get recorded in this space. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the book is going to be successful, and I have a feeling your kids are going to write a hit song.
I hope so. I mean, that's the desire, right? I would hope that I can get them musically inclined. They are already. They're reasonably inclined, but I have no idea if that becomes something or not. But if it does, I mean, I'm in a fully treated studio. I say fully treated, it's 99% treated. It's just the back wall behind me, the only bit on camera that looks rough. And I'm going to address that, again, hopefully with the profits from the mics that I've got left for sale. So they'll trickle out over the course of the next month or two. And I'm not buying anything with the money that comes in from them. In other words, it goes into my bank and stays there. So eventually I'll reach a point where I'm like, oh, you know what, I've got enough in my bank to pay for a couple of panels. Or at least I hope it reaches that stage. If they take 3 or 4 months to sell, I'll still be living off them. Whereas when there's a chunk, like I'm reducing the prices of them to clear them out this month because I don't want to be dealing with them. I want to be concentrating on the book, and they're just a distraction now, if you know what I mean. So I've put them all up at cheap prices to hopefully clear them out over the month. But if they don't sell, it means that inevitably they'll be trickling out, and you know the money will just vanish on bills. So I'll never have enough to buy any acoustic treatment with them. But hopefully they'll clear quickly and I'll have some money left over to treat the wall behind me where the mics currently are all sat. So as they all get put in flight cases, that is to say the ones I'm keeping, the space behind me will come a lot prettier, you know, with uniform design like the rest of the room. But given that I've got an acoustically treated room, there's no reason why I could record drums in here and it would sound great. And that's a statement, right? Most people can't say that. But yeah, I could record a drum kit in here. And I've got all the appropriate gear. So, and more importantly, an appropriate room to do it in, because the gear's kind of neither here nor there if you haven't got a decent sound coming off the drum or off any instrument. But in here, everything sounds great.
Is that the last wall you got to treat? The one where the mics are?
Yeah. So this wall behind me is horizontal. So I did point this out in one of my mic videos, I think, that I made recently. Whether or not I've published it, I can't quite remember. But if I turn my camera around, so over on the other walls, the panels are all uniform, one after the next, down the room, interrupted only by a bookcase and a light switch that stops them being so. And then over in the other corner are there, vertical as well. Whereas behind me, I treated this space first because I wanted to obviously have the bit where I'm recording sound the best immediately. So I wanted to get the most out of the treatment. So I put it in an arrangement that was a bit hodgepodge and higgledy-piggledy so that I could extract the most treatment out of the least panels. So hence they're horizontal with gaps to sort of spread them out as much as possible over the area. Whereas ideally they just need to be like this panel that's behind me, which is 2 feet by 4 feet, all like the rest of the room, all vertical. So there's one directly behind me, and then there's one next to it, and then the third one would be off to the side, and then this vertical as well in the corner. So the panel that's above my head would go behind the computer, which means stripping off the shelf, taking the computer off, putting the panel on the wall, putting all the computer equipment back on the shelf, and after it's been cut down, and then, like I say, 3 vertical panels with me sat directly in front of panel number 1. So yeah, you can see a little bit of this horizontal panel. That has to be because it's over a radiator. But that's the only exception. That should be the only exception. All the rest of them are vertical. And other than the radiator panel, it should look a lot better for being uniform behind me. It'll also sound a little bit better. I mean, because I've squeezed a fair bit out of the panels I've got, it shouldn't make a massive difference. Like I say, the rest of the room is fully treated, so it shouldn't really sound that much different. It might push the needle a couple more percent in terms of having the room acoustically perfect. But generally I'm doing it actually for the aesthetics of it. I want it to look like the rest of the room, because the rest of the room looks awesome. This is a mess by comparison to the rest of the room. So yeah, that's what I want to do. If I can get some profits from the mics, like I say, what I've earned to date, as I'm elated with this, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to knock this in any way if this continues, but it's paid my second mortgage for the last year. So I'm delighted with what I've achieved already. If eBay suddenly took my account off me tomorrow, not that they're going to, but you know what I mean, if I suddenly didn't have the ability to sell them, I would literally take all of them down the tip or to the charity shop, or put them on Facebook for pennies, or give them away, and I wouldn't care. It's like I've paid my mortgage with them. But now, if I can get rid of the last 50 or so mics that are on eBay currently, I can turn that into acoustic treatment without having to do any more e-begging to achieve such a thing. So in the past, I've done GoFundMes to buy 2 or 3 panels at a time, and then a birthday will come and I'll get my folks and sister and brother to chip in to buy 1 panel, and so on and so forth, right? Well, it'd be nice to just buy 2 or 3 panels, and they're several £100s each. They're not cheap, and just bosh them up without having to ask for a dime, just through the sales of mics. Might be a pipe dream. We'll see. Hopefully that'll be the case. I'd like to have the wall behind me looking prettier.
How's it going with the book?
Yeah, good. We finished off chapter 1, so where I thought there'd be half a dozen changes, a dozen at most, we went through it 6 or 7 times, and every single time we went through it, reading through it, I was like, no, this needs to be adjusted, that needs to be adjusted, this needs to be adjusted. And by the end, after we'd done it for a couple of hours, my wife was like, look, you can over-edit these things. So, at some point you've got to just sort of draw a line under it and say, you're happy with it. Yes, you can always make minor adjustments. And my attitude was like, this is the chapter that will dictate whether or not someone reads the entire book. So even though it was, in my humble opinion, the chapter that needed the least work of all of them, the first chapter was nice to begin with. It had a complete context change. So it went from being written about me in the third person, like it was written by someone else, to it being written about me and myself, by me, in my words, about me. So that required a fairly hefty change to the entire chapter to reposition it from third person to first person, and that was done. And then the addition of a amendment to each and every suggestion of Ball to incorporate the fact that Earth is being measured flat. So while I'm detailing the housekeeping questions that you'll be reading about as you read through the book in the first chapter, I'm prefacing the description of each housekeeping question with the overarching demolishment of that particular housekeeping question. So when it's describing an axial rotation, I also pepper it now with the axial rotation that is requiring a horizontal plane of reference to be perpendicular to. In other words, I'm pointing out, and then I put in brackets, a flat Earth prerequisite, and close brackets. So in other words, you've got the descriptions as they were, past tense, for each housekeeping question in as concise a manner as I can muster, followed by the current rhetoric that demolishes that question based on its requirement of a flat Earth prerequisite, pointed out again in as a concise a manner as I can muster, so that the chapter leaves you in no doubt. By the time you've read the first chapter, you know Earth's flat. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes about it. You understand that there's going to be an expansive demolishment of heliocentric concepts throughout the rest of the book, but you're being directed to the fact that each and every point in the book that is describing a globe Earth requires a flat Earth in the first instance. So that's being pointed out immediately in chapter 1, so that it grabs the attention of the reader and they are inclined to read the whole book, because they're like, bloody hell, this is a revelation. If you're an existing flatty and you're reading it, you'll be cheering that the information's out there for next man to read in the manner that it is. So you'll be like, yes, this is perfect. Now, I am, humble as I am, not absolutely delighted with the first chapter. So I would say we've finished it, but for, minor criticisms and read-throughs from other people like yourself, I am happy with chapter 1. Tonight we will start on chapter 2.
Then that means it's good.
I'm very happy with it. Yeah, I'm content that by the time anybody, doesn't matter who you are or what position you hold, finishes the chapter, you'll either be, if you're a Glober, utterly outraged at the simplicity laid out in terms of the descriptions of heliocentric concepts and their requirement for flat Earth, or you'll be gobsmacked as a normie because you're understanding from the off after the first read of the first chapter that Earth's actually flat. And if you're a flatty, you'll be like, yes, I really want to put this in front of my sister because I know that by the time she's read the first chapter, she'll know Earth's measured flat.
Well, my wife was listening very rarely, that she does, over my shoulder. And she said to me that if that's what the first chapter is, an explanation of how Earth is measured flat, and that's that, then what's the point in reading the rest of the book? We may as well go and get a pint.
Well, because it's a book about roads leading to flat Earth. So the rest of the book describes in a more expansive manner the housekeeping questions with, again, a more expansive description of what that entails for you as a globe believer, which you might not understand. Most people haven't got an advanced heliocentric understanding. But towards the middle and end of each chapter, it's explained in more detail how and why Earth is required to be a flat plane of reference for each of those touched upon points about housekeeping in a concise manner throughout the chapters of the book. So the other things that are peppering the chapters, or in between each of the chapters, that are heavy going description and unpacking of heliocentric notions that are flatty or globe believer or anti-flatty or anti-globy or anti-normie, whatever. Whoever's reading it, by the time they get to the end of the chapter, there's enough meat on the bone for them to want to continue reading. That is to say, it'll be juicy enough and enticing enough for them to want to pick it up again, to have a more expansive explanation of how and why Earth's measured flat. But like I say, I'm content that the two things I wanted to achieve, which is that you read it and go, wow, I want to read more, and wow, Earth's flat then, that is achieved by the end of chapter 1. Now, if you've only got that, you're one in a million that goes, all right, well, that's it then, Earth's flat, I'm done. Let's put the book down and on with my day, because that's perfectly normal. Your wife's aware of what we're doing, isn't she? Now, I can understand the criticism or the suggestion that somebody might want to put it down after the first chapter, but there'd have to be that one in a million that goes, all right, well, fair enough, it's just flat then. I can't see many people being like that.
Well, my wife is
Hold on, Neil. Go ahead, Jado.
My wife is one of those people that I don't know if you remember the movie Shattered.
I don't, but go on.
Yeah, it was about anyway, a lady having an affair with a man, and her husband, the person she was having an affair with, drives off a cliff and crashes, and his body was damaged so badly, his face was damaged so badly that she gave a picture to the plastic surgeons of her ex-husband, and she just happened to kill her ex-husband. So she recreated her ex-husband from the pictures, but it wasn't. It was her person that she was having an affair with. Anyway, I thought, there's no way my wife will get this. So I brought her to the cinema, sat her down, had the popcorn, and after 5 minutes she says, oh, that's the guy that she's having an affair with. So there's people that will just get it straight away and then just be bored, like my wife. That's what she just said to me. But my question to you is, how far are you willing to go to sell this book out in the electronic world?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that yet, I'll be honest. But just to respond to what your wife's saying, what I've put in there between the chapters is anecdotes that are about individuals. That is to say, it goes from highbrow, information-rich, revelation-rich chapter to very lowbrow drama, people, and events. Because they're crazy. As in, the people who I've encountered in the last 10 years, a lot of them are very, very interesting characters to be read about. So there'll be enough, I don't want to say smut, but enough salacious information about individuals to keep your casual reader, who might immediately be bored by the flat earth aspect of it, intrigued with the journey through a community of conspiratorial-led people who behave in bizarre ways with bizarre beliefs. So breaking down some of those characters, Antonio Subrat, Bob Nodell, Patricia Steer, Stephen Chess, Johnny Bravo. I'm only joking. Eddie Bravo. I've called him Johnny Bravissimo. Oh, I said I wouldn't mention whose names were what. Anyway, Wakey. There's a whole bunch of characters that are in the book that are extremely interesting to read about because it, in some instances, is quite salacious. So to be reading about a guy on his deathbed claiming that another individual is transgender after a salacious multicultural cross-Atlantic relationship, those sorts of things do tend to pique people's interest about what's the next anecdote going to be like. You know what I mean? So I hope there's enough in there, and it's the bits I like, right? I like those bits more than the bits about housekeeping because they're, you know, you can say it's salacious or lowbrow or whatever you like, but they're what I've encountered as my life has progressed through the last 10 years of flat earthing. And I genuinely believe that those characters I'm describing are truly interesting for every casual reader, and for every, like I say, heavy going factual piece of information about flat earth and anti-globism, as is the case in the book. There's enough anecdotal smut to keep somebody interested, I would hope.
As long as you introduced some of that salaciousness in the first chapter, but when you slam down the flat earth proof in the first chapter, there's still an inkling of people wanting to stay around to feel the salaciousness of those characters that you've introduced in the first chapter.
I haven't introduced them in the first chapter. Maybe that's something I need to address. Chapter 1.5 is where they get introduced.
I would say that if the change where you've made it from third person to first person, that's a better move, and it wouldn't. It would enable you to slip in a little bit of why these salacious characters have been so salacious.
Yeah.
So, and that will kind of give you a taste of what's to come. I've been pissed off for 2 or 3 years now because for 10 years these guys have tried to take away my children.
Oh, that's in there. Oh, right. Okay.
Well, I mean,
So let me just. Now you've said that.
First chapter.
Yeah. So in the first chapter, the character's me. It's who is Nathan Oakley. That's chapter 1. Therefore, as much as a bit of introspection would have been a better answer, it's about me. So me describing battling the ballers and them threatening to have my kids taken away, trying to discredit me, and me being a flat earth ninja, end quote, is how I am describing myself. So in the first chapter, there's obviously the hint at the characters I'm going to be describing further down the line, but I'm the character that's being described in the first chapter. So it relies upon me having the confidence to say, I'm ace and interesting, you're going to want to read more about me, here's why. And then describing the events of the last 10 years in terms of the high levels of oppression that I have personally faced that mirrors anybody who's reading from a flat earth perspective, might make the person who's been that way towards flat earthers recoil in horror as they read it from another person's lips, if you know what I mean. It's me talking in the first person. But I am that character in the first chapter. But where I've introduced enough salacious nature of my own doing about myself in the first chapter, that is continued throughout the rest of the chapters when I'm describing anecdotally other people who've been involved in the process. So you've heard some of the stories about Bob Nodell having a mic crammed up his ass while he's pretending in a very soap opera-esque style that he's got terrible information that can't possibly leak out. Is this mic working? Have you checked the batteries in the last 10 minutes? You know what I mean? It's going to be ace. Fear not.
I mean, it's the history of flat earth debate. The show is great. The book will be great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident that the first chapter's great so far, but that's all we've done. We've read through the book, then we've started work on it in earnest in the last couple of days, 2 or 3 days. And as I said yesterday, I knew we'd get to the end of the first chapter by the end of yesterday, and we did, albeit it took a lot longer than I was expecting, because what you think is done, 90%, you're like, oh, I just need to make 1 or 2 adjustments here and there as you read through it the first time. When you're actually reading through it and then going, right, let's go through it again because we've made some changes. Oh no, this needs changing. Let's go through it again because we've made more changes. Oh yeah, we need to change that as well. We'll have to go through it all again. And that's what we kept doing through it and through it and through it and through it until eventually we reached a point where, like I say, I'm saying to my wife, I am now happy with this.
Very good. Now let's keep going.
Yeah, we'll do little and often, but as the chapters progress, they need more and more work doing to them. So chapter 1 that I thought would need almost no work did still take 2 or 3 nights, and it'll only get more, in depth as we go through the chapters. I think the anecdotes don't need a great deal of work. We'll see.
You met a lot of interesting characters through the years, have you not?
Yeah, I have. Interesting characters that have behaved in interesting ways as a result or as a consequence of coming across the subject of flat Earth. I say the subject, I phrase it carefully, because those people didn't necessarily know Earth was flat. They came across the subject of flat Earth and then started talking about the various different conspiratorial subjects that they'd come from to flat Earth with. That's what they talked about.
Yeah, I listened to that show last night that you put up. I can't believe Eli wasn't getting it, man. Like, why should I not be able to talk about it? It's not my fault. It's like, talk about whatever you want. If you want to look like a meatball, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it just takes us pointing these things out. We pointed out on yesterday's live show when we're reacting to the guy who's reacting to Dan, and Dan's reacting to a flat earther who's saying something along the lines of, I think there's a map that looks like the moon. You're like, okay, that's what he's going to focus on. While you all agree on distance measurements being horizontal, elevation angles for zeniths of Polaris, azimuthal equidistant North Pole centric projections of latitude lines that are used to create the globe, to project it conically in those maps, all of those things got agreed upon. South, north. These axioms of a flat Earth are all agreed upon. But then what's the actual overarching focus? The guy says that the map's the moon. Okay? So we all agree that it's measured flat. We all agree that it's south and north and they're horizontal in terms of their axiomatic directionality. All of those things can be agreed upon and are. Nobody challenged a word of it. But the kooky beliefs of the flat earther was the main overarching subject matter. So that's what the audience thinks is the important part of it. Because no one's pointing out to them that everyone's agreeing how flat they're measuring it. No one's pointing that out. It's brushed by both sides. It's nuts. The normie doesn't know it, Dan doesn't know it, and neither does the flat earther. They just carte blanche accept how flat Earth is being measured without even realising it. And that's the shock for a lot of our anti-flat Earth brethren currently. They're like, well, yeah, of course I get to use sea level. parallel to it. Of course I get to use heights off it. Not unless you accept our flat Earth is being measured for it. And without it, you've got nothing to use. You have to measure a flat. I think our opponents are starting to realise the god-awful truth that they can't bear to cope with. Like, oh yeah, I've been using these flat Earth elevation angles to measure the sun 1,000 times, but we don't only measure Earth flat. Like, you measure Earth flat though, don't you, dum-dum? We all do. It's just, it was unspoken previously. Now I come along and go, yeah, we're just measuring Earth flat at step one of everything, always. And they go, crap, yeah, well, distances on a flat Earth are blah, 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 blah. You're like, that's all there is. There's only distances on a flat Earth. You need them. So what's the problem here? Oh, yeah, you want to believe that after using these flat Earth prerequisites, you can tell everyone about how ball-shaped it is. You're like, nah, not anymore. Moving forward, we're going to get a few of them going bonkers. It will drive them nuts. Because they'll want to use flat Earth angle measurements and flat Earth distances and flat Earth heights off sea levels and flat Earth altitudes without anybody saying anything. And it's going, excuse me, on your knees, you're measuring a flat Earth. And there's no alternative. You don't get to suddenly go, oh, well, I'm going to measure a curved mile. No, you're not.
No, they're not. It's driving a man. And Len played a couple of videos, well, one yesterday, of how Toon was ordered to just, taking a shot at your character and making like stupid videos, because it was evident in that little altercation with Vax. I think you're 100% right. He knows. He knows, and he's skirting around it very carefully. But they have nothing because they can only measure Earth flat. So let me make this video and let me character assassinate him and move on from there.
Yeah, it's sad. We had the guy in the worldwide debates do it, who gave us the pitch data, his name I forget. First thing he's saying is, like, you've got pepper pots, pepper grinders. Like, you're pointing out that there's a video from 10 years ago before I had any kids where it catches a glimpse of my bedroom and you can see a load of sex toys in there. Like, you think that's an ad hom? Me, I'm like, yeah, fist bump. Yes, that's right, I have a great sex life. What, but you think it's insulting because you've got some quite conservative Christians in the crowd that might be offended at someone having a sex life? Yeah, I understand why you're utilising it, but it is absolutely pathetic. Why? Well, so that you don't have to talk about the flat Earth prerequisite measurements you're all making. Distances, heights, elevations, elevation angles, maps, directions. Go ahead. Vitali. Just hot micing.
Oh, no,
Vitali.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just hot micing. I'm sorry about that, Nate.
Just in relation to your book, Nathan, have you thought about what platforms and where you're going to go to promote it once it's nearly ready?
No, but I will assess that when it's nearly ready.
Do you know that that platforms, since you've started this process of the book, do you know that there's so many platforms now out there that are discussing flat Earth that you probably never even realised?
Hopefully people will point me in the direction of those particular platforms and I'll go there and promote my book there.
So at the moment, the most explosive flat Earth versus globe Earth forms is the new live version of TikTok. So every Joe Blow and his dog, who's a glober, creates a live TikTok, and they invite flat earthers to come on and prove the flat Earth. That is what so since I've been doing what I'm doing the last couple of weeks, moving house, but living in a motel while I'm fixing my other house up, I've been just scrolling around, and this thing has exploded the last 6 or 7 weeks. And I've found a lot of old globers that used to be hanging around Discord or YouTube have found their way to this platform and have started to spruik the same shit that they did 6-7 years ago. But the problem is the flat earthers that are coming on there are newbies and they have no idea what they're talking about.
Sure. The cycle must continue, with the feast of nonsense being spread and newbie flat earthers being discredited for being conspiratards.
I was just going to say, they're starting the cycle all over again. Of course you're going to find some old school ballers there first.
Yeah, but the problem is the views are in the millions as compared to old school YouTube and Discord.
Yeah, that's why the old school ballers are there. Absolutely.
Well, that's something we must remedy.
Yep. How do we get in there, Jado?
Well, no, it doesn't need to tell us anything more than that. Once I'm prepared with something to flog, that is to say, it is in my interest to be in these places. Because that's the reason I'll be wanting to be there, right? Not because I want to convert the millions of people who are looking for confirmation bias by seeking out a video on TikTok that's just as poisonous as YouTube and affirm their bias that they're on a globe by watching a moron, conspiratard, newbie flat earther talk about 9/11, whilst some old school dyed-in-the-wood pain relief-seeking anti-flat earther points out some rhetoric that's been demolished 6 ways from Sunday, again, for the benefit of an audience that just wants to be proven right about something they already believe. If I'm there, I'll be there promoting my book. In other words, from the moment I open my mouth, I'll be like, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. What's that? Oh, no, it's just not that serious. It's just measured flat. Buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. That's what I'll be there doing.
It's probably best not to, lay your strategy out prior to going.
Not a strategy, it's standard fare promotional touring. I remember watching a cartoon that we had in the 90s here in the UK called 2D TV, and it was a piss take of all the political viewpoints and TV shows and all that sort of stuff. It was made by the same people who I think made Spitting Image, if you've heard of them, puppets. Anyway, it had Michael Parkinson and Madonna on an interview, and it zooms in as they're sitting, in the interview scenario, and he says, fawn, 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 and she says, plug, 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 plug. He says, fawn, fawn, and she says, no, plug, 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 plug. He says, fawn, fawn, she says, plug, 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 plug. And that was the end of the sketch.
Did you just describe every single interview I have ever seen?
Yes. Now, obviously, if I'm out in these circuits, it's not an interview scenario, is it? They're not there to interview me about my book. Now, that may be the case. I'm sure I'll go on certain shows where they just want to interview me about my book. Right, they've read it and they're like, holy crap, what, Earth's flat? That's how it's measured. And yeah, checks out, it does. Only get measured flat. I can't quite believe it. Tell me all about your book. Plug, 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 plug.
Sounds like the Mark Sargent interview. That should be one of them you go for.
But what Jardo's describing isn't that, right? It's old school flat earth debate where there's a perception created by the people seeking confirmation bias that there's a debate to be had. And they can only use the old rhetoric already demolished, where everyone assumes that the ball already exists by begging the question, after whistling past any flat earth prerequisite measurements that will be used to confirm that bias, to an audience that's watching a normie/new flat earther be ridiculed for his conspiratorial beliefs in something like 9/11. That is the standard format. Me, I'll be setting a cat amongst the pigeons and probably getting muted a lot. That's what'll happen. Because I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Why do you think I started my own show in the first place? Because that's what YouTube was like in the early days of Flat Earth, while I was a newbie. People would invite you on their show so that they could humiliate and mock you for your lack of comprehension of the heliocentric model. Where I did well was that I did have a good comprehension of the heliocentric model when I went on the shows, but then I would immediately get muted or turned right down so that I could be mocked, like was the standard fare programming order of the day. Not me showing that I had a greater knowledge of the heliocentric model than they did. No. Turn him off, turn him down, mute him. So when I get accused of having a mute button, pure projection. The only reason I existed was because I'd go on these shows on YouTube 10 years ago and immediately get muted and shouted down, talked over by the hosts. Oh, well, I can control your line. I can just turn you off. Ha, ha, ha. You're not going to get to point out how you do understand this stuff. I'll be telling the audience how flat earthers are dumb and think there's a pizza pie. Me saying, no, I don't believe that. Actually, you're under the misapprehension that the world's flying around the sun. It's called heliocentric, sun at centre, as in Helios. And before you finish the sentence, you've been muted.
Yeah, that must have sucked.
Yep.
That's why I've got my own show.
I have been there, done that.
That's why I've got my own show. So what, you want me to come to your show so you can mute me? All right, I know. Project that I mute everybody. That's what they do. It's like, no, what I do is I run my own show, and when you can't get away with muting me, talking straight through me, then you get closed down, when it's absolutely justified to do so. But you'd prefer I was on your turf so that you had complete control of what I say. That's why I'm hated. Because they don't have any control over me. Do they? The only control they can exercise is algorithmic control. Limit the amount of people who see me doing what I do. It's been that way for 10 years.
Well, you persevered, and here you are. You got a book coming out, and you're going to do a little tour. So things are looking up, I'd say.
I'd say so too.
I will attest to the.
Good.
I will attest to the being immediately shut down thing. That was my experience. I was just like, all you can do is laugh about it. Like it's a joke at that point.
Yeah. These Muppets are absolutely terrified of the god-awful truth that they might have to encounter when they come across someone like you or I, John. Well, if they're in control of the conversation, they can shut it down. They can literally stick their fingers in their ears as far as the words coming out of your or my mouth and repeat the rhetoric that they've been taught to repeat about how wrong we are based on the stereotype fallacy of a flat earther that they create the impression of. They create the stereotype of. That's what the order of the day was. Like I say, to counteract that, I've got this show. And we absolutely listen to ballers put their claims across. But when you counter their claims, that's when they start yakking through the top of you and then calling foul when they get shut down because it's not reasonable to interrupt the rebuttal, which is all they ever did. But here, they just don't get away with it. Can't expect anything other than a government-based narrative to be controlled in a certain manner algorithmically, and training your average normie who's being deceived by the same exact government propaganda to want to defend that off their own volition. That's how awesome the power of heliocentric programming was, past tense for me. Because you could get your average normie to defend their own bullshit. The bullshit they've been lied to with, they'll go out of their way to defend. Amazing when you think about it. The level of gaslighting that's been put in place to achieve such ends is unfathomable. Right, I've got to press a few buttons before we start. Time has ticked away a lot quicker than I expected. Hopefully you'll talk amongst yourselves the next 5 minutes while I set up.
Just want to let everyone know that NASA have released a new blue marble image, July 2025.
Wow, was it what altitude was it taken from?
I'll post it in the chat from Discovery satellite and an associated satellite, from what I can gather. But it looks really like the globe.
Oh, I'm sure my spherical kitchen looks like a sphere. Neil, you're letting Nathan down.
What's up, guys?
Okay. Just posted in the chat. Enjoy this beautiful picture of our lovely globe Earth from space. It's only been released
Did you post it in
3
the
days,
Discord?
and it's only been released 3 days, and already people all over the copy and paste of the clouds. Well done, community.
I've been finding on a lot of the posts about Artemis and going back to the moon and space stuff that there's a more than usual number of people who are at the very least questioning and putting little laugh emojis on their stuff. So I think the tide is slowly turning, and at least people are having the confidence to question, all the stuff that's going on and going back to the moon. There's several posts on the Facebook realm that are showing it going back to or talking about going back to the moon. And there's a huge number of people that are pushing back on that.
Yeah, I reckon NASA have employed more people in the last 10 years to monitor social media than they have in their whole programs.
I almost wouldn't trust real people to monitor social media, or I'd farm it out to server farms to do it. I don't think I could trust someone that's trustworthy to approach the subject and try to defend the company line in the face of so many people basically just generally questioning them. How come you're spending so much money to go to the moon? That's got to be either real bots or server farms that have people that can't spell right and just write insults all day.
Yeah,
What will
have a go
happen?
at your grammar rather than your argument.
What will happen if they will change the definition of an angle or horizontal or all this axio like that? What will happen if they will change the official definition?
Can't memory hole axiomatic principles in measurement. You can't change what Euclid's laid down already. They just are what they are. Now, if you're saying suddenly you've got a curved line meeting a straight line forming an angle, I mean, that depends on how stupid society gets. If society reaches a point where it's dumbed down to the level that they'll accept that, then heaven help everyone anyway. Everyone's just too dumb, and we're in a world of idiocracy then, aren't we?
I think there's a part of idiocracy that is the internet and social media. I think social media is the test case for true social idiocracy.
Or you can't do
They're
that.
already trying to do that with
can't
the
say that.
sea level definition, saying it's curved in the definition. If you ask Google AI like that.
Yeah, so recognise it for what it is. When people accept that violation of a principle, a violation of the law of non-contradiction, and they'll just repeat it at you, just laugh at them. And just think, yeah, the world you've grown up in has grown to be a very stupid place. The people surrounding you who tell you these contradictions in terms, these violations of the law of non-contradiction, as though you need to understand because you don't, according to them, just laugh. Yeah, you're smarter than those people, aren't you?
Well, yeah, but the idea that you could change the definition of an angle being a curved line, meaning a straight line, and have that be okay, that fundamentally destroys geometry.
How are you?
It's not actually the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, it's the Flipside Discord server. Let's get the name correct. Divergent Droid would not be happy if I did not make the correction. So you are actually hearing the dulcet tones from the Flipside Discord server, to give the name correctly. How you all doing in Discord? Thank you. Tumbleweeds. To see where Globe
we're
Earth...
doing, as a spokesman for Discord, we're doing absolutely great. It's just that we can't get to our mics in time.
Ah, yeah. There's always some excuse. In Globe Earth Dictate, it's got like 6 million participants in Discord. How you all doing? Tumbleweed sound effect. But it's all good. I've been informed reliably by Jardo, the guy who was speaking a moment ago, that there is a resurgence of the Feast of Nonsense repetition where new school flat earthers, in belief only, are facing off with old school anti-flat earthers, repeating rhetoric that's been destroyed many times over to create the impression that there is a justifiable ridicule aimable towards your average conspiratard who finds his way, as all roads lead you to, the flat earth subject. Not to a flat earth, I might add, but to the flat earth subject matter, so that you can spew your belief in the notion of earth being flat. Ignore all flat earth prerequisite measurements used by both yourself and your opponent so that they can suggest that the earth isn't flat after measuring it to be exactly that. While you get ridiculed if you are said newbie flat earther on TikTok Live with your belief in 9/11 or Sandy Hook or whatever the most recent baby hoax is. So, with that in mind, once my book comes out, there's a fair chance that I'll go out on a tour just so I can be in those spaces plugging my book and pointing out it's not that serious. We just measure Earth flat. You, me, everybody, always, without exception and in all circumstances, Earth is only ever measured flat. That's how we measure Earth. Meanwhile, the idea that there should be a discussion and a debate is a fascinating folly to investigate. That is to say, you seeking your confirmation bias when you're on these shows as the anti-flat earther. That's our opponents. Very fascinating from a psychological point of view. The confirmation bias seeking when you already know it's measured flat. Or you do if you come here. There's a good reason that I'm hated. And that's because I'm pointing out currently how it's not that serious. We all measure Earth flat. Nothing's going to change. What difference does it make? It don't make any difference. None whatsoever. What difference? Now, we'll still measure surface level. We'll still use sea level. We'll still take elevation angle measurements. A mile will still be flat. Nothing will change. Earth was always flat. That's how we measure it. Didn't you know? Oh, well, it's not that serious. What's that? You got a belief in a ball you need to tell me? I'm good. Thanks, you can keep it. Keep your religion. I'm good. But I'll be out in these spaces, I'm sure. Plug, plug, plug. Plug, plug, plug.
What I'll try and do is in the next half an hour, I'll gather a whole heap of these sites and I'll post them in the chat, Discord chat.
yeah, it's good to be familiarised with these things, as I'm sure I'll be doing them. I just, as much as I appreciate you telling me this stuff, it's one where it's semi-frustrating from my own perspective because I still don't have the time to deal with these things. And you're giving me them proactively on your part so that I can literally just be reactive to what I need to do. I just don't have the time to be reactive to it, unfortunately, at the moment. But I'm glad that I'm taking it into consideration in a time slot that I can even consider it, which is while the live show's going on. Probably the most relaxed point in my day at the moment, when I'm doing the least. You know what I mean? It used to be that running the show was complex and stressful. Now it's like, this is when I get to have a little break. This is when I get to relax for a few minutes. Actually, in my chair, in my comfy space. Wonderful. Nice and relaxed. Talking about how Earth is always measured flat. Yeah, it's the unwinding part of my day. The rest of it will be filled with editorial work and educating two little monsters. But it's a Thursday,
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
okay.
Halfway through the week, at least. Go ahead, sorry.
If people like myself and Jin and the rest of us get out there and we butter everybody up, ready for your book launch, then you've got a free ride.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I will go through things like affiliate programs, so hopefully people who do a decent amount of promotion work will benefit financially from promoting my book if they publish links to it. That's to say, after speaking to the publicist, you can acquire a link so that if you say, go and buy Nathan's book, it's awesome, and you happen to have an affiliate link under your video that you're doing that in, and then someone clicks on it and buys the book, you'd get the same percentages that I get out of the book. That is to say 30% of the proceeds that the book generates, you would get, same as me as the author. So it's one of those, I'll go through that again once it's closer to the time. It's getting ever closer. The book is ready, all but the editing of the text that's already down on paper, ready to be put out there. Just needs approval for each chapter. Yesterday I did the end of chapter 1, put it all into first person and added our current rhetoric about Earth being measured flat when detailing the ongoing discussion of housekeeping in the book. So chapter 1 is who is Nathan Oakley, and it's describing me being a flat Earth ninja. And then the realization in more modern times that there is no need to be a flat Earth ninja. Earth's measured flat by everyone. Why would you need to argue? In fact, it serves their benefit for you to create the impression that there is an argument to be had when everybody accepts carte blanche that Earth's measured flat. You can't not accept it. That's how it's measured. So that's what's laid down in chapter 1, along with me telling the world how wonderful I am and how my experience over the last 10 years has led me to this conclusion. Redundantly, because it wasn't necessary. We just didn't know it wasn't necessary, and you don't know what you don't know.
So in how many days is this book coming out, and how much is it going to be?
Don't know either of the answers to those questions. In the past, we've joked about it having the same pound note value as the radius value. So £39.59, perhaps. I don't know. I have no idea. What it'll be priced at will be expensive. It's not going to be a cheap book. So there's plenty of, I don't want to say throwaway books, but books that maybe cost a tenner and you can dispense with in half a day. Mine won't be that book. It'll be more incorporating complex notions of heliocentrism and how they've been overcome throughout the last 10 years, along with a lot of whimsical stories of individual characters that I've encountered over the last 10 years that are extremely interesting in terms of their character arc. So, you know, there'll be a little bit of smut along with that in there to keep the housewives happy. There'll be enough technical information to keep your staunch flat earther happy, and there'll be enough devastating revelations to put your average glober in the mental hospital.
Rather than the radio
Let me know when
station,
it's
maybe
out.
go for the...
I'll buy a copy of you.
Oh, thanks.
Just saying, maybe go for the 60 nautical miles rather than the radius value, mate.
I mean, I've got to talk about radius. So again, in chapter 1, I'm hinting at the fact that in the section on the distance to the sun, there's a Huygens assumption that uses a flat Earth derived radius value. So when talking about heliocentrism, there's always going to be that connection back to the flat Earth derived radial value at the equatorial extremities, otherwise known as the equator. Well, that is a flat earth prerequisite that you can kick the book off with in a very positive way, because it's a book about anti-globing, isn't it? You know, it's old school, last 10 years of what I've done. As much as I want to now decry those notions and tell Gin off for using them, you know, that's what we've done for a long time, you know, which is why I can totally, in a way, empathise with Jim when he's like, I won't change how I do things. You're like, well, I don't blame you. Like, we did it for a very long time and now I'm saying it's wrong. I mean, I'm not going to change that stance either. It is wrong. You know, we're creating an impression that there's an argument to be had about how Earth's measured. Well, when you go and watch people who are reacting to this subject, like in yesterday's video, there's a guy watching Dan react to a flat earther who says the moon is the same as the as it is map. And that's, from Dan's perspective, the low-hanging fruit that he's decided to focus on. But at some point in the video, they're talking about zenith, they're talking about distance measurements, they're talking about directionality, all of which are flat earth only measurements. There's no other way to utilise south or north. It is what it is. There's no way you can describe linear distance unless you describe it as a flat earth prerequisite. It is what it is. That's how Earth's been measured. So when it comes to all parties involved, they're all kind of in agreement on two things. One, that we're going to be mocking this flat earther for his stupid notions of map moon. And the other is that we all agree that we're going to be using the horizontal distance, the flat earth only directionality, and a zenith description that's only capable of acquisition by way of angle measurement with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. Earth is measured flat in the agreement, in the process of mocking a flat earther for his stupid conspirator beliefs. So therefore, we shouldn't hold the conspirator beliefs. It just gives our opponents that they're not. There's a perception that they're our opponents. They also need flat earth measurements. But there's a perception that needs to be created because our opponents have a belief in a ball created from flat earth measurements that we're all in agreement of. It's just an unspoken agreement. As long as we all neglect to mention that there's flat earth prerequisites in the forms of distances, angle measurements, heights, surface level, sea level, anything that's being used generally in day-to-day descriptions of measurements of Earth, as long as everybody can whistle past how flat they all need to be for us to focus on how stupid this flat earther is when he says there's a moon map, you know, then we can all agree that that's how things get done. We all measure Earth flat and then discuss how ball-shaped it is and how stupid the flat earther isn't for understanding how ball-shaped it is, and his stupid notions of how ball-shaped it isn't are wrong. Let's show how the flat earther saying it's not ball-shaped is wrong. That's how the order of the day is. Go ahead.
Are you saying 9/11 is not a conspiracy, Nathan?
Look at this stupid idiot Neil talking about idiot things about conspiracies that are obviously, as the government told us, cuck. But you're stupid. You don't understand, Neil. Look at your stupid, crazy, conspiratard notions. Let's ignore that all flights are parallel with the surface level, that their altitudes are described from sea level, that they're flying in a distance that's linear and horizontal. Let's ignore all things a plane does and talk about whether or not planes were even on the 9/11 event. Was there even any planes there? I mean, I'm a no plane guy, but you can mock that now, can't you? As opposed to talk about flight level. Go ahead, from Discord.
The point is that we need to use the things that we can prove 100%. That's what we need to talk about, things that we can really prove. Even if
you getting it?
there's some stuff that we are kind of sure that is true, but we cannot prove it, then it's no point talking about that. Just, you know.
What are you kind of sure of?
Well, 9/11 is proven, so I don't know what you're talking about.
We're talking about how a mile measurement is horizontal, that your map scale demonstrates how flat Earth has been measured, mapped and charted. And by talking about 9/11, you open your opponent to mock you, regardless of how right you may feel you are.
Exactly, because we cannot prove it. So we need to focus on stuff that we can prove.
Yeah, we got that the first time. Yeah.
So, what he's saying is 9/11 really
By that
happened.
logic, you can't prove anything.
I don't need to prove anything when I describe what a mile is. It's not a proof that's requiring a logical inference. It's just what a mile is. It's flat.
No, but he's saying in order to prove it, it has to be on Google. I'm saying you can't prove anything now.
You're saying I can't prove
what?
anything?
No, I'm
That's
talking
not
about
true.
that we should talk about things we can
King,
prove, like
thanks,
Earth
King.
measurements,
Thanks, King.
Earth
We got you.
measurements,
King.
natural laws,
King.
like that.
We got you. Thanks. We need to focus on things we can prove. We got you. Thanks. Now, I can demonstrably prove beyond all certitude what a mile is and how flat Earth is as a consequence of that measurement of Earth. That's something I can prove unabashedly. Okay. However, me describing how I believe that the planes traversing a certain area of gas that we all breathe, formerly described as atmosphere, forms condensation trails that remain persistently because they've been described that way by I mean, I can't prove that. But if I suggest that's the case, people can mock me for it. Can't they? Miles, there's no arguing about it. You'll need it if you're wanting to oppose me as a flat earther and say I'm wrong. Okay, well, have you got a different type of mile? You haven't? Yeah, Earth's measured flat then. With miles. Have you ever used a map? That's it. That's the end of the discussion in this arena that we find ourselves in. Flat Earth, that is. Flat Earth isn't flat Earth.
Yeah.
It's been made into something that is mockable.
Any other piece of nonsense or conspiracies, we can only use correlations, or basically we can say like, oh, there's a big percentage, like over 50% percentage that chance that that's true. But as long as we cannot prove it, it's pointless to talk about it.
It's
I was just saying yesterday as well,
the
Nathan.
wrong
But
category.
9/11 happened.
You are in the wrong category if you're talking about possibility.
Like
That's not my fault.
We know that
Hold
we
on.
know that they.
Go ahead.
I'm saying that we know that once you get power, you want control, because that's what power, to have control over others. So basically, the people that are in power, they want control. So they want to control us, and they can do that using fear. They can control us using fear. It's already known that they want to control us using fear, but we cannot prove
Sounds like a conspiracy to
certain
me.
events.
Yeah, you've just said you want to focus on things that you can prove, and now you're immediately speculating about fear-based mind control from government entities. I mean, you couldn't get much more feast of nonsense.
I'm not saying that I have a proof that they are doing this on certain events, but I'm saying that this is the most like the outcome, and it's happened. It's most probable that this is happening, but we cannot prove it, and then no need to talk about it. It's just that you can have it in your own mind.
But you are.
And
Yeah, that's exactly what you're
just
doing.
be careful.
But that's what you're doing.
Just be skepticism. Skepticism is good.
You're irritating me greatly, King. So what you're saying is, don't talk about this very specific subject that I've brought up and aired as an example of not talking about that very thing. Can you see how irritating that would be? All right. So you speculate that there's government-based mind control. Right. But something you very specifically cannot prove after literally only 35 seconds ago saying, stick to things you can prove. Well, I don't know why you brought it up then. As an example of things that you can't prove?
No, I'm just saying that we should focus on stuff, to talk about stuff that we cannot prove. And then obviously, because it was in the subject, I had to give an example of a stuff that we cannot prove, to stay away from debating
That's
or
not
talking
the way you
about
phrased
that.
it. Listen back to the show.
Meanwhile, would it not be more pertinent to mention the things that are good to talk about rather than highlighting the things that aren't? Because by highlighting the things that aren't good to talk about, you simultaneously highlight those things specifically. Do you understand?
Yeah, I didn't want it to go in that direction. Actually,
No, fair enough.
I really want to focus on the measurements and natural laws. I'm really
Direction, you
interested
say?
to
Direction.
get more better grasp on that. Like, I got it very good. I just want to listen to get better at remembering all these facts.
Right. But can you understand my overarching point, which is, let's say Simon Dan reacts to you, and this isn't me and my show, Nathan Oakley 1980, it's just 8 King on some show saying, quote, I think we should focus on the things we should be able to prove rather than the things we can't, because I believe there's a government-based mind control conspiracy, end quote, you. And then Dan, Simon Dan, responds, look at this crazy, kooky, flat earth conspiratard. He believes that the people in power are only attempting to control you through means of deception. What a conspiratard.
Or somebody else saying, I was into conspiracies before I came to Flat Earth. It's not my fault, so why am I not allowed to talk about conspiracies? I was doing it before 9/11, and I'm going to continue to do it.
I was a heroin addict before I came to Christianity. I mean, it's not my fault that I enjoyed the virtues of heroin addiction before coming to Christ. I don't see why I should change anything about my ways. It's not like the love of Jesus is helping me away from the drugs. I don't think I should change anything that I do. By comparison, I'm not.
Can we prove?
I'm not suggesting I'm a heroin addict.
Can we
Crack,
prove
much
that
better.
Simon Dan and all these others, they actually know that Earth is flat? They're just trying to defend the globe. Can we?
So what you're now...
And then went out,
Okay.
he had 1,000 people measure it.
Number one, let's answer him. He absolutely knows it's flat. Dan knows it's flat. Quote, Simon Dan, we don't only measure Earth flat. End quote, Simon Dan. So you're acutely aware that we measure Earth flat. Just to correct that sentiment, we only measure Earth flat. Dan damn well knows it. He believes there's other measurements, but he's taken 1,000 of them. So he absolutely undoubtedly knows, because he's telling you he knows, isn't he? Meanwhile,
Yes.
you're questioning his motivation. He's one guy. Who gives a shite what Dan believes or knows? He's just one guy. My point was to say that when he reacts to you as the individual, as a videographer, he's going to go for the lowest hanging fruit possible. And in this instance, it's you suggesting government-based mind control. Or if it was someone reacting to this that wasn't Simon Dan, pointing out you talking about Simon Dan. The social aspects of it, because you're talking about a man now, rather than the measurements. See? It's easy to focus on something that's lower hanging than the overarching problem they face, our opponents they face. A problem of Earth being required to be measured flat in all circumstances. So if you're going to say, we know we're on a ball, we measured flat Earth angle measurements to the sun 1,000 times to prove we're on a ball. Then you know when someone like me comes along and goes, you've measured Earth flat. Oh, well, we don't only measure Earth flat, is the reaction, yeah? But that's specific to the measurements, as opposed to specific to the man. If I was talking about Dan all the time and how he doesn't debate and lies about it when he's debated someone like me on Twitter, now X, about Coriolis deflection, what, you and your reference frames are ruined? Yeah, that's Dan debating and losing. Now, I could focus on what a liar he is, but then that would be what got reacted to. Me talking about a man. Instead, let's talk about his 1,000 flat Earth measurements of elevation angles. And now we don't only measure Earth flat. Well, that's you only measuring Earth flat, though, isn't it? No other examples where you're measuring Earth. The ones that you do, you measure it flat. So you only, Simon Dan, measure Earth flat. Well, how are you going to focus on anything other than what I've specifically talked about when I've only talked about him only measuring Earth flat 1,000 times? Because that's all I'm going to talk about. That leaves them with a very distinct problem. I mean, you could still go back
what
to
they say.
Go ahead, Neil.
No, I'm sorry. Stick to what they say. He said, they don't only measure it flat, but then sends 1,000 people out to measure it flat. You got to stick with what the guy says. He measures it flat.
But does he know? Who cares? That was his question. That's what I'm criticising. Asking whether or not he knows. It's like, does it matter if one man knows or not? Earth is measured flat. That's the statement to make. Not, does Dan know whether or not Earth is measured flat? Because then it seems like there's ambiguity. There isn't any, and it matters not if Dan knows it. When it comes to measuring it, he'll damn well be measuring it that way. He's got no option other than to measure it flat because that's how it's measured.
Exactly. That's my point.
Right.
Why he keeps attacking us and doesn't agree about this? Why he doesn't? Because he has an agenda to defend the globe. How can we understand, me, simple person, understand how flat Earth is measured, but Simon Dan keeps with his globe? That's the point.
He's entitled to it. Everybody's entitled to their belief, aren't they? If Dan wants to believe in a globe and uses his 1,000 flat Earth prerequisite elevation angles to the sun to prove, in air quotes, that he's on a globe to himself, then more power to him. Me, I'll come along and, excuse me, you're measuring Earth flat 1,000 times. What's that? You don't only measure Earth flat. Oh, well, that's a lovely response. Thank you. But I don't care what you now believe in moving forward after measuring it flat. We're all clear how it's been measured. Flat. So there's no discussion, there's no ambiguity. Whether or not Dan gets it, who gives a shit? Who cares?
Pardon me. To measure is to know. If he has measured Earth, then he knows.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. We got to keep people at their word.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, that requires a level of enforcement, though. Like, I've got to hold Dan to his word. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Like I say, it is inconsequential whether or not Dan gets it. Like, if he's in complete denial of the flat Earth prerequisites he's measured himself, does it matter? Will it change what an elevation angle is?
No, that's not the point. But, I listen, if somebody says something, I got to hold them to their word. That's all. Doesn't matter if he believes it or not, if he agrees or not. There's no agree, disagree. He measured it flat. It's the end of the game.
But
how do you measure it flat again?
Can we know?
Can you explain that again?
The question was, can we know that Simon Dan knows?
Yeah. And I object to that
the answer is yes, if we measured it.
I object to the question because we're questioning one man and his discernment. When the reality is, it is as measured by him in this instance, flat. What's the measurement? Elevation angle from surface level to form an angle to the sun in the case of Simon Dan's flat Earth measurement, just to answer your question. Try and keep up.
So you take a measurement angle to the sun from the ground, and then what do you do with that?
What I just did, prove Earth's measured flat with it. It's just just 10 seconds ago. Try and keep up. So yeah, so when you've measured Earth flat 1,000 times with elevation angles to the sun, you know it's measured flat. But when we question whether or not he knows after measuring Earth flat that he knows it's flat, it's just us questioning Dan's discernment as opposed to stating with absolute determination and knowledge of the facts in the matter how flat Earth has been measured. In this case, by some dude. The dude is inconsequential. Who cares if he knows or not? He's measured it. How did he measure it? Well, he measured it flat. He's taking elevation angles. Elevation means from the surface. Part of the angle is the straight line along the ground. That's what it is. Now, I'm not putting it up for debate. I'm not putting it in an if statement. And it is almost like putting in an if statement if I question if Dan gets it. Because then suddenly Dan becomes the arbiter of whether or not that's the case. He isn't. It is utterly inconsequential if he gets it. Or the guy in Discord for the third time. If he understands how flat this measurement is and asks me, are we measuring Earth flat again? I'll go, try and pay attention, keep up with the conversation. Elevation angles. 1,000 of them. Those are the important bit, not the man.
But Nathan, Simon Dan and all these other guys, they're using what they have been taught about the heliocentric model. So basically, whatever AI, artificial intelligence, already knows. So basically, AI is much more capable of I'm knowing all this information about heliocentric. So making AI to admit Earth is flat, all this AI, Grok, Meta, and many others, it means that we already make AI admit. Then why Simon Dunn would not admit when Simon Dunn has a limited knowledge
What do you
of their
mean?
own?
You did admit it.
Number one,
So
AI is not the arbiter of how Earth gets measured. If AI says, no, we do actually measure it curved. Oh, absolutely, we measure curvature. Okay, fine. What's that? You take that as a proof of Earth being measured curved? Okay, what's the measurement? Well, if you look at this distance, distance in miles, what, flat? End of discussion. As soon as you actually apply any measurement to Earth. What Grok has got to say about it doesn't matter. And the fact that we can get Grok to go against the rhetoric in religious terms that's punted to people through their education, that is influencing individuals who are inconsequential like Dan, to go along with the rhetoric at surface level that Grok will give them, that we absolutely measure Earth curved. Well, no, when we actually measure Earth, it can only be and is only ever measured one way, with miles, sea level, surface level, altitudes, all of the axiomatic principles used to derive angles from eye level, dip, elevation angle. All of the measurements in reality are ipso facto flat. Notice how I don't need to mention Grok or Dan in pointing out these facts. They're facts of measurement. So when you again go back to, should I question whether or not, because we've convinced Grok to tell us the reality, like, do you know it's measured flat? You do. Then get on with your day. You don't need next man, in this case Dan, to get it also. The fact that he's in denial about it and wants to spew that cognitive dissonance into an audience that's ready and welcoming it, then let him. Yeah, you know better though, don't you? It doesn't matter if the world knows. The world will still be measured flat, even if you are the only guy to realise that everybody is and can only measure Earth flat. That's how it is dealt with. That's what Earth is. So what we think, what the social gathering agrees upon, what the democracy suggests by way of a vote Earth is irrelevant. None of it matters. All that is consequential is, how is it actually measured? Now, to believe in a ball, you have to also measure Earth. Therefore, all measurements of Earth, including but not limited to the ones that are applied by calculation after the fact to a ball belief, will also and can only be flat. So even people who say they believe that Earth's measured curved because Grok tells them, well, actually it's measured curved. Really? We can point out, if you want to get into the wrangle-dangle, how Earth actually gets measured to create their bull belief. But then you're taking the position of fart-sniffing guru trying to rob them of their God-given right to have a belief in an Earth that's measured flat to create a bull to believe in. Let them. You want to believe in Earth being a ball? You believe it's measured that way. Good for you. That tells me straight away that you don't have good discernment and you haven't actually investigated the subject, because we do know how Earth gets measured and it isn't what they tell you. Have some confidence where you don't need to make them believe as you believe, because you're not holding a belief anymore. When they tell you it's not measured flat or that it's measured curve, if you know that is not true, you can smirk and go, oh, right, okay, thanks. Because you know better than they do. Now, there might be the certain very limited circumstances where shysters, as we do deal with, intentionally lie about it, and you feel aggrieved. Smirk also. You know better. They want to convince you and next man that their belief holds true by way of lies. Now, you don't have to be a one-man crusade against lies. People are always going to lie to uphold the belief system, in this case, heliocentrism. But so long as you know it's measured flat, Earth that is, you will not need the affirmation of next man when he's wrong. You can just smile politely and go, all right, it's measured curved, you say. Okay, thank you. And then get on with your day knowing the contrary is true without necessarily getting involved in a fight. The only people who fight, in my humble opinion, are the people who didn't really know it was flat to begin with. Therefore, they need the confirmation of next man. If I can convince next man to believe as I believe, it creates a more unified belief. We have consensus if everybody agrees. Well, I have realised in the last couple of years, consensus isn't required. If I was the only guy who recognised, not knew, recognised how flat Earth is always being measured, then it wouldn't change how Earth's always being measured, would it? Doesn't matter if the entire world consensus is nobody ever measured Earth anything other than curved, because as soon as they go out and actually measure a distance in miles or kilometres, it is flat. Ipso facto flat. That's just what it is. Know it. Don't worry about whether a next man along the line believes otherwise. It's not for you to concern yourself with, so long as you know.
Exactly. You got a super chat.
Woohoo! Who did I get a super chat from? I can't read it on this. I'll have to go to the live stream viewer activity.
BMR006,
yes.
$50. Nathan and Neil, much respect.
Oh, it's got your name in it, Neil. So thank you very much, BMR006, for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Thank you very much for the $50.
Now, is this Guns of Navarone?
I think so.
I wonder why Neil was calling out a super chat.
Have my name in it. I got to do it. You know, it's all about me on Nathan's show. As long as they know, as long as everybody admits. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, that was kind of a dumb thing for this guy to say, because AI is not the measure of truth. You know, AI is programmed by man, right? Like, it's essentially computer programmers making the AI.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out, like we say. And I don't even pay attention to AI. It's fun what 10th Man does, and it makes a good show, and it is all correct. But yeah, you can get it to say what you want it to say, but is that still going to change how Earth is measured?
No, it won't. Right, it's not the arbiter of how Earth gets measured. So once you understand Earth measurements, I would hope that the audience recognises what I'm trying to communicate, which is to say there's a certain amount of assurance that you find in not needing to correct next man. I give the example previously with a mechanic who knows how to fix clutches. When some bullshitters in the bar talking about how he's fixed his car or built his car from scratch, and the mechanic doesn't mention that he's a mechanic, but listens to the guy bullshit about how clutch works incorrectly, the mechanic may not necessarily see the need to correct that guy, but he's still going to go to work the following day and fix people's clutches. The fact that the guy who's bullshitting is irrelevant to the guy who has an expertise in how clutches work. He's just going to roll his eyes, isn't he? He doesn't need to prove to that guy, A, that the guy's wrong about his bullshittery about clutches, or that he knows what clutches are. If you just know how a clutch works, you don't feel the need to impress that on next man. You know, you're like, oh, God, bullshitters. That's how you just need to see someone like Simon Dan. Oh, God, bullshitters. What's that, measured curved? Yeah, okay. Right, okay.
I think his original question was, are these guys like Simon Dan, McToon, and all these Globers, are they just programmed this way and they're parroting for money and clicks, or is it the fact that they know the truth and they're deceiving the public like a weasel?
You're questioning their motivation. So again, instead of it being about something that Dan specifically has functionally done, he's measured Earth flat 1,000 times with participants across the surface of Earth that was measured flat by him and all of his participants. If we question whether or not he gets it, or why he would be on YouTube spewing the contrapositive in denial of the measurements he's made, then we're questioning his motivation over and above simply pointing out what he's measured. So therefore, we can be pointed out or mocked for our lowbrow approach to whether or not one guy gets it or not. Who cares if Dan gets it? He's one guy.
You got another super chat.
Thank you very much for the super chat. Is it from the same person?
Yes.
Thank you very much, BMR006. From guns to you, a few flat men is Oscar worthy. It was only our second rehearsal. Got one last item on order, and something that I ordered long after it was purchased on eBay. This arrived, so I've got my Shure popper stopper windscreen for SM58, which is going to go on a 545 SD that I've ordered. No, 565 SD, which is the Freddie Mercury microphone, which I'll be using in place of this, so I don't have to have a battery in it. So when I'm walking around making coffee with a microphone, I'll actually have the Freddie Mercury mic. I only found out it was a Freddie Mercury mic after I purchased it, but this will go on top of it. This is the Big Breakfast popper stopper. So if anybody is familiar with the Big Breakfast from the UK back in the 90s, they'd walk around with radio mics and they'd have really brightly coloured tops on it, like bright blue, bright green, bright yellow, and that's what they were. They were these from Shure. So I ordered this from Shure Direct, and it's come before the mic has, because the person has taken an eternity to ship it to me. So that happens to be the last mic I'll ever receive, because I've stopped purchasing them now. It's like I say, there was just a couple that I've been waiting on that hadn't arrived, and that was one of them. But I've got the windscreen direct from Shure before the item itself's arrived, which is slightly heartbreaking. But I'll show it you when it comes out. That'll be the mic that I ultimately, as I say, walk around and talk to you on. The Freddie Mercury mic 565 SD by Shure when it gets here. And it'll have a Big Breakfast pop filter on it. Anybody know what a Big Breakfast is? No Brits on the panel. Bummer. I'm sure there'll be some Brits in the comments that go, yeah, I remember those mic tops on the top of the Big Breakfast mics. Anyway.
Yeah, that's like a Brit joke. Most of us don't get that.
Yeah, it's a British thing. It's from the 90s.
I remember, Nathan, but I'm busy digging post holes.
Fair enough. You're doing your thing.
Do debates at all? Like once a week or something with anyone? Or
what's to debate?
Just the shape of the Earth, I guess.
Sorry, that's not a debatable subject. Man. Earth's measured flat. That's not something you can debate. If you want to believe you're on a ball, then you measure Earth flat to achieve your belief. For example, I can't believe I'm just going to repeat this. Simon Dan suggesting that you can calculate a radius value with 1,000 flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements taken from surface level. That's what he has done. So it's not like this is debatable. Either, if Dan was here opposing me, let's debate. What do you mean debate? Well, whether or not it's a ball or not. Okay, well, where do we start? I've got measurements. What are your measurements? Of a flat Earth angle measurement to the sun. I've got 1,000 of them. So you've got 1,000 flat Earth measurements. Why are we having this discussion again? Oh, right, because you want to ignore how flat you've measured Earth and move forward to calculate sphericity from those angle measurements taken from surface level. Well, we've already got the surface level measurements. If you deny them, then you haven't got them. If you use them, then Earth's flat. If you violate them, then they're no longer angles. If you say that the surface that was measured flat for it to be an angle is actually curving, then you haven't got any measurements. So either you accept Earth's measured flat because that's how you've measured it, or you don't. Those are your only two choices. What? Don't accept your own measurements of Earth, okay? So moving forward, you've got nothing then. Oh, you want to use the flat Earth measurements and hope that I ignore how flat they are so you can tell me how they calculate sphericity. I'm not going to do that. I already know it's measured flat, and so do you if Dan was opposing me in this discussion. He knows it's flat, he's measured it that way. So what's to debate? The answer is nothing. There is no debate. There never was. Only the perception of a debate. Well, I'm glad he hung around to gave me a response to that. Unreal. No response. Go ahead.
You know the second law of thermodynamics, I guess it prevents all the gases to go from the Earth to so-called quote-unquote space,
Are
right?
you a wanker?
But the
Are you a wanker?
Me?
Not rhetorical. Are you a wanker? I just answered your question about debates. I gave you an extensive and all-encompassing answer. You have entirely ignored me after a protracted silences, and now you're talking about something completely different, the second law of thermodynamics. My response is to ask you if you are a wanker.
He's an undercover baller.
I mean,
I asked him if he's a wanker.
Ignoring you. It's just there's nothing. What do you want me to say? I mean, you said what you had to say, right?
You could acknowledge it. You could say something like, okay, to acknowledge the extensive answer I gave you. You asked, should you have a debate once a week or so? Now you're interrupting me. Definitely a wanker. You asked me, I'm repeating what you asked me. Should you have a debate once a week or so? Then my response, what's to debate? If Dan was here, as we've talked about him extensively on the show, I'd be saying, what have you got to suggest there's a debate to have? And he would offer me flat earth measurements, 1,000 of them. At which point the discussion is over. There's no debate to have. Everyone measures earth flat. What I'm looking for you, as that was directed at you, was an, okay, so there's no debate then. Sort of acknowledging how I've overcome your question about having a debate once in a week when there isn't a debate to have. What you did was completely ignore me and then talk about a different subject. Rude. Hello, wanker!
Yeah. I'm trying to respond to you. I have a delay. I'm in my car.
Okay, go ahead.
I understand your perspective on the debate, but for the audience that are watching...
What a wanker. It's not a perspective. Perspective is a measurement also requiring a flat surface level to describe. So in here, this wanker says, I understand your perspective on the debate, the one that I've categorically dispensed with by pointing out everyone's measuring Earth flat. And he uses the word perspective on the debate. No, perspective, wanker, is also a flat Earth prerequisite measurement. Wait for the pause and the complete ignorance of what I've just said to him. There is no debate. You've just said my perspective on the debate. There isn't one. Perspective itself, as you use that word, requires surface level to measure. Do you want to know who found that out? And then went bonkers and gave up their channel to McToon. That would be Conspiracy Cats. Quote, I'll give you a flat earth for that perspective. End quote, Conspiracy Cats, who subsequently gave up his channel when he recognised how there isn't a debate. You need Earth to be flat to describe perspective with it. So there is no debate. Everybody measures Earth flat. Now that guy gave up his channel as a consequence. You won't even acknowledge what I'm saying. You completely contradict me by saying, I understand your perspective, a flat Earth prerequisite measurement, on the debate. What, the one that there isn't, that I've just challenged twice. There isn't one. You want to acknowledge what I've said? There is not a debate. Everyone measures Earth flat without exception. In this case, for the word perspective, we've got Conspiracy Cats, quote, I'll give you a flat Earth for it. Why? Because that's the only way you can measure Earth for perspective. Or Simon Dan. Oh, I think Earth's a ball. Really? What you got? 1,000 flat Earth measurements of elevation angle. Oh, well, that's a flat Earth measurement. So there is no debate. Everyone measures Earth flat. Third time, please can you acknowledge it rather than contradicting me by saying you understand my perspective on the debate that there isn't. Thank you. Go ahead.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying at the end of the day, even if, like, when you're saying the Earth is measured flat, that's fine, but it's still fun for the audience to watch a debate, right?
What debate? What can we debate about? There isn't one. So he is a wanker. It doesn't seem to matter that I'm pointing out to him in response, there isn't a debate. Oh, well, it'd be fun for you to have one. There isn't one. It's measured flat by everyone in all circumstances. There's no exception. So I ask for a fourth time, what debate? What did you want me to debate about?
It doesn't just have to be about the elevation angles, right? Distance to the sun, moon landing, there could be many topics.
The sun moon
All of those
landing.
topics.
Number one, what? The sun moon landing. I don't even understand what the bloody hell you're babbling about.
I'm saying there's
And all of
subcategories
those
within this
topics that
field,
you-
right? You could debate about distance to the sun, the moon landing, many other topics.
So distance to the sun derived from flat Earth radial value extrapolation. First, you have to measure a radius value so that Christian Huygens can superimpose a radius value measured on a flat Earth with elevation angles and their limitations at the equator. That's the minimum elevation angle derivation of a radius value so that Christian Huygens can assume Venus has the same radius value as Earth measured flat. So Earth's measured flat for Christian Huygens. So he can infer sphericity and scale from Kepler, all of which starts with a flat Earth derivation of radius. So there's no debate. If you want to talk about distance to the sun, you with your globe belief and you with your inference of a distance to the sun require Earth be measured flat to derive radius value. So again, there's no debate. Earth's measured flat for the distance to the sun. What debate? There isn't one.
Also, distance itself is a linear function. And when you talk about the distance over the surface of Earth, that's where that function was derived.
Time our audience gets comfortable with the facts. You all got too happy with debating. Now, I appreciate the namesake of the show is Flat Earth Debate. Well, what we're actually doing in more recent times is ending the perception there even was one. Because there isn't. There's only everybody's use of flat Earth measurements. South, north, horizontal planes for heights off surface level, utilising the measurement of Earth flat for sea level, for parallel eye level, to derive angle measurements, like elevation angle measurements to the sun, like Dan measured, like Christian Huygens is utilising to infer a distance to the sun, by way of angle measurement extrapolation. That's flat Earth prerequisite in every single regard. There is no debate. Earth is and can only be measured flat by everyone in all circumstances and without exception. Even your crazy ball beliefs all span from a flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle to derive your radial value. There aren't any exceptions. There never was a debate.
Right. And to calculate your transit from Earth to the moon, you're going to need the elevation angles to form the celestial sphere. You're going to need all of the Keplerian and orbital mechanics elements, which are all with respect to a flat Earth. To calculate the distance you would need to travel to get to what you believe the moon is. So Earth would have to be flat for all that.
It's having confidence. Like I say, my frustration is with people where I'm saying you should be chill about it, don't worry about it. Well, my frustration is with the conspiratards that surround me that want it to be a debate. They want to flex their intellectual prowess on others. They want to lord it over next man. What I call fart sniffing. I'm so intelligent. I know all about how Earth's measured flat. Let me explain it to you while you tell me how Earth's a ball. Let's debate this subject. No. Once you understand and appreciate how flat Earth is measured for all claims, including but not limited to ball claims, then you realise that the claim itself is dependent on Earth being measured flat, therefore there's no argument. Now, we, that's all of us, have whistled past how flat Earth had to be measured in all circumstances to have our opponents, when it was a perception of a debate to be had, suggested that Earth was anything other than the measurements when they said it was a sphere. And nobody pointed out how sea level was required, and if it ever came up, they'd violate an axiom by describing level as bending. Ludicrous. A world of idiocracy will face those idiots. For us, we know better. We know how Earth is actually measured now. So have some confidence. Realise there's never been a debate. That was only ever the flat Earth measurements that everybody was using.
Yep, very well said, Nathan. That's it, mate. I love the way you're talking about this recently, especially on the show yesterday early on. I wasn't there, sorry, but yeah, you've got it to a fine description now of what it actually is and how it's become what it is. Perfect.
Cool, yeah. We've still got 5 more minutes on the live stream, so profitable that it has been with 2 massive super chats. Thank you very much indeed. Guns of Navarone. Yeah, I want to wash this idea away of there being a debate to have, because there isn't one. Like I say, I'm currently rephrasing my entire book based on that fact. Now, there's people on the panel here, John being one of them, that have known this for a couple of years. For a lot of us, this penny has only dropped in the last couple of months. There's people in the last week who have skirted the issue and disappeared because of chemtrail truth. But nevertheless, a specific individual was on the panel and recognising from their own use of their own flat Earth prerequisite level measurements that they'd made themselves, how the tool itself required axiomatically a principle of Earth measurement that's flat. Now again, if you don't know, you think, well, it can't be that simple. I'm just levelling my tool to the plane of reference that's Earth. Doesn't mean it's flat, does it? You're like, yeah, that's absolutely what it means. That's what you're doing. You're levelling it. It just seems so stupid when you say it. Yeah, levelling it? Yeah, that's right. It was so obvious it was there the whole time. But people go, well, can't be that simple, can it? Yes, it can. Most things that are true aren't that complicated. This is no exception. The fact that Earth is just so simplistically measured flat in all circumstances, just describe any Earth measurement. You'll recognise it immediately. But for the fact that you've been brainwashed to the complete contrary. You've been brainwashed to believe it's curving. Well, your curve that you believe in violates the actual measurements. Now, so long as nobody points out the religion of curve while you're doing Earth measurements for mapping, surveying, sailing, flying, anything that requires you actually measure Earth so you don't die, as long as the religion of a ball isn't mentioned during those training processes, then everyone's fine. No one's going to die. No one will crash into the ground. Because no one's being trained that there's a great big void opening up based on a derivation of surface level calculations that infer a geometric horizon point below an acquisition of an angle that relies on you measuring your height off a flat Earth. Nobody's having this pointed out. The two are detached currently. And what are we doing on Flat Earth Debate? We're smashing these two worlds together. The world on the one hand where everybody understands and appreciates how Flat Earth must be measured, because they're describing how they build on it, how they sail on it, how they fly over it, how they map it and chart it. Those people are unapologetic about how Flat Earth they deal with it, because they're not talking about their religion at the time. So when Jin says, well, that person still believes it's a ball, yeah, but they're unapologetic when they actually measure Earth. And it is measured flat. So what do? We're going to bring these two worlds together. The world of belief that violates the actual measurements of Earth. Now, it's not an immovable object meeting an unstoppable force. There's just the fact of Earth measurement. That's what will prevail. We've all been deceived for several hundred years into belief of a religious endeavour to better understand the movement of the lights in the sky, to give us better calendars, to give us better timekeeping. Those bullshit worlds that move around the sun will die. They're not going to always believe in a violation of the measurements of Earth in the first instance. That's not going to stay forever. Far from it. Now, there will be people who go nuts when they realise the awful truth. But for everyone else, if you get it and you know Earth is measured flat now, don't worry about converting next man or asking, why doesn't Dan know this? He does. We don't only measure Earth flat. Yeah, we do. He has only ever measured Earth flat, and that's all Earth will ever be measured as, a flat plane. It is just that simple. You go back to the Greeks, and what are they doing at Alexandria and Cyan? They're measuring elevation angles off a flat Earth. That's what they're doing, with sticks and shadows. Nothing will ever change, and it won't matter how many years you go back through history. It was always being measured flat, even by the ancient Greeks, who you're bullshitted with into believing that they were measuring a sphere. No, they weren't. They were measuring it flat, because that's the only way it ever got measured. Past, present, and future. Earth will always be, has always been, and will always be measured flat. Shout out to your friend Pablo. Great show as always. Can't wait for the book. Me too. Be working on chapter 2 tonight. Very exciting it is too. Right, we're up on the hour. Any last remarks from anybody?
Yeah, you got Buck Sodbuster in there. Funny that you say crying for a debate. What debate? Nathan, is there a debate? Is there something that needs to be debated?
It sounds like I almost addressed this like literally 35 seconds ago almost. No, there is no debate. Everybody requires Earth to be measured flat. In the case of Buck Sodbuster, he provided information from black box data that just affirmed exactly how flat Earth is being negotiated, but we didn't need black box data from Buck Sodbuster in this regard. We already know flight level is parallel with surface level. Your altimeter will measure your height from the sea level. That's the principles that's used to keep planes from smashing into each other. Flight level from sea level. Earth's measured flat if you're going to do anything that requires people not die. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
Okay, did you hear what Alwyn said about you? I didn't even answer him, but I noticed when he was talking about a debate, they still think there's something to debate.
You will remember the Alan Watts explanation. So long as there's an argument to be had, then their perception that there is an argument can be kept alive. That's the reality. They need it to be a debate. They need us to be arguing about it. As soon as we stop arguing, it's because we've already realised the awful truth that they can't accept. If we're arguing about it, then there's potentially a chance that they could be right. And it's like, why would I argue? But there's no debate. You want to debate me?
That's what's driving them crazy. That's what's driving them nuts. That's why Tuna's making these crazy videos. You're his obsession right now, and Buck as well. But Refracted said something while you were ending the show. Did you hear it? I don't think you heard it, Refracted. Repeat how you should phrase this.
You can't make a knowledge. I'm sorry. You can't make a knowledge claim about Earth being a sphere without first measuring Earth flat.
Well, I like it, John.
Dumbfounded.
I like it. Maybe everybody's contemplating what you said. You know, Nathan's a little slow, so he's got to digest it.
Well, he is
They
obsessed
think
with
they
him,
have
as
him.
you said, because his first phone call from Antarctica was to Nathan Oakley.
That's not what we're talking about. John, explain it. Maybe they'll catch on.
But these people believe that they know something. They have a claim they're wanting to make. Right? They want everyone to know it's a sphere. But they can't make a knowledge claim about Earth being a sphere without first measuring Earth flat.
Yep. Because
The thing is as well, John, that's what they've been doing, isn't it? And that's what they continue to do. Buster, for example, claiming a theodolite is measuring curvature when it's not, it's measuring angles. Yeah, so he's measuring angles in the first instance. Like Nathan's just explained, that's how the Greeks measured Earth, using elevation angles on the surface of Earth to then claim that it's a globe. But everything in the first instance, like John's just
nicely put down will require that the Earth's measured flat before you then go on to explain how you know it's a curve or a globe.
Right. Because to measure is to know. So when they measure, they know Earth is flat. So if they're going to make any claims about it, they know.
It is the axiomatic antecedent before you even measure that the Earth is flat.
Well, it has to be to measure it.
Yeah, and we can thank sea level. Mean sea level for that, because that sea level has determined everything. Measuring tools was designed around it. It's not a tool; it's the Earth. It's level, sea level.
How could it be sea level if you got high tide and low tide? Flat Earther?
High level and a low level. What?
Yeah, I read that in the comments the other day.
What was that?
Well, what they say is that, let me give you the whole claim. Sea level is measured whatever distance in, like, say, Africa, and then in Australia, it's a different level. So how could it be mean sea level? So they don't understand what it means.
But it's a different level than somewhere else's level.
How can you say the Earth is flat?
How would you know it's on a different level if you didn't know its level to begin with?
Yeah, you need your baseline. You need something to reference it off of, right?
Yep. See, and I don't doubt that there's places on Earth that have higher tides and lower tides with respect to the plane of reference.
Yeah.
You know, a tide is only the maximum level the water reaches as compared to the low tide, the lowest level the tides reach.
Being parallel to the horizon.
Yeah, they're parallel planes. It's still flat.
As long as we're all talking about tides and not sea level, everything's fine.
Yeah, it's the horizontality, the state of being parallel to the horizon, and that it's flat and level. That's what you're going to be measuring it.
I like when they bring these high tides and low tides up. It shows their ignorance, and it gives us a chance to demonstrate how Earth is measured flat. Now, mean sea level is just what it says. Mean sea level.
Yeah, it's right there on every single tidal chart on Earth. The horizontal baseline, 0 degree slope, in every single parallel of the high and low tide, all being measured flat.
You would think the clue is in the title, right? Mean sea level.
Yep. It's a dead giveaway.
Yeah. Tides it says the tides are permanently measured using tide gauges along coastlines. Yeah. To record water heights relative to a fixed land benchmark or mean sea level.
Oh dear.
There you go.
Well, why don't you flat earthers explain the electromagnetic lines of flux on a flat Earth?
Yeah, burden of proof reversal fallacy of how it works with the toroidal fields and that like as well.
Just talking about what you
No, you're still
utilize
using a baseline.
use a compass with.
Yes, a compass does. You measure the magnetic lines of flux. What relevance does that have to do with anything?
Flat.
Still need a baseline. Still need something to measure it off of.
Yeah, you have to level a compass to measure the magnetic lines of flux, don't you? Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, no matter which way they turn, they're going to run into the wall of a flat baseline. That's their wall. And you can't climb over it. You can't break through it. You just have to adhere to it. Make life very easy. Well, they do adhere to the measurements. I can't say they don't. Right?
Yeah, their calculations desperately need them.
Yeah. Coon got a video of Nathan running away. What's the title of it again, Len? If you're there.
Sorry, I can't remember the name of it, but from Toon's videos, it's from 5 days ago from his live, and it's the thumbnail.
Of course, I get a phone call in the middle of a question.
It's happened to me all day, that. Did you get them words through, Len?
Yes,
What was the title of it?
nothing with them yet. Sorry, it's taken me a few minutes. So I keep putting my phone back in my pocket and going back to digging holes.
As soon as you put it in your pocket, somebody's going to ask you a question. You know that.
If I need to crack on with this.
Well, in the meantime, while you're doing what you got to do, can we talk about the propagation of sound and how that only can happen on a sphere?
So, like celestial navigation, only works on a globe.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the
And
same
GPS.
concept. It's the same concept. As you described from your center point, the propagation of sound waves emanating out from you. You're describing yourself as the 0 point of a Cartesian coordinate system. So it has to be a sphere.
That's correct. One of the diagrams I use is actually a sound diagram. No one ever notices, but what looks like elevation angles coming from his ear. Because if you're describing the wave propagation, literal wave, sound wave propagation, it's always described Cartesian as you just described. You're absolutely correct.
Is that the picture you have up there now?
I don't know if it's. I'm not looking at what's on my screen. No,
The little red guy.
no.
I think it's a black and white one. It's got like what you'd actually see as a sound wave, I think, coming from the person's
Oh, I know the one
ear.
you're talking about.
It looks very similar to what you'd create a globe with. You inside hell is a similar diagram. So he's got a circle around him, a circle over him to describe the degrees from his ear, to describe all properties of sound in a Cartesian planar system. Exactly as John just described.
Oh, dear.
It's all.
But I said, therefore, it's a sphere. So it's a sphere. I mean, it's easy to laugh at, but they've been doing it for 200 years, and nobody's been laughing at them.
Yeah.
And measure it flat, then declare sphere.
Yeah.
We get it.
I measure my distance in this horizontal manner, and this horizontal description of a distance can afford me a geometric horizon. Therefore, Earth's a sphere. Why? Well, because I derived a dip measurement from a parallel eye level. Parallel with what? Surface level. Therefore, the distance to the geometric horizon... Whoa. You mean the surface level that you measured to infer this distance, and the distance itself being horizontal and linear, means that you've got a violation of the distance and the eye level and the surface level when you infer the distance is bent? It's not. You're still giving it in miles. Yeah, but in this orthographic diagram, I can, after I've measured it flat and measured my eye level parallel with it flat, I can show you a curve, mathematically, derived from those flat Earth measurements. Therefore, it's a sphere.
Exactly. You got it.
I mean, when you think about this properly, I mean, I know we've all thought about this, but the more you think about it, it feels like you're in some sort of, I don't know, nut house. And this was a big test to see how long it'd take you, because someone said, just tell them it's a sphere, but we'll give them all the horizontal measurements and sea level, and let's just see how long it takes them to realise how stupid that is as a humanity test. That's how it feels.
It's been many years, one decade. I guess we're dumb. Like we're in Bizarro world, right? Measure everything flat and then just declare we're on a globe. What do you mean you want to go? Well, I just measured everything.
Yeah, we just measured it. We have to measure it flat. It's horizontal. We've got sea level, but it's a globe.
Therefore, globe.
Humanity. It's fucking crazy. But that's not. This isn't just in this. I'll call it an arena. This is humanity. Crazy times, man. Crazy times.
Oh, shoot. This is humanity we're talking about here. Everybody's measuring Earth flat, walking on Earth flat, observing Earth flat. Therefore, sphere. Floating in space. Oh, boy.
I wonder when someone's going to pull us out and tell us we've won a prize or something.
The winners of the Earth Test, FED, hosted by Nathan Oakley. It only took 2,000 freaking years.
And in second place, Simon Dan.
Oh, boy.
It's funny though, if you're just having sort of, it's good, like you can bring everything back down to, you know, if someone's talking about distance, what we spoke about today and other days, it's a linear measurement, talking about, you know, a plane trip, the height above sea level, altitude. I've been trying to do it, I am doing it, and do it yourselves, just in every day. When I'm out about at work, just talking to people, I'm just picking up how many times these things come up, just in normal conversation, where you could say, well, that's above sea level, you know. You don't have to be in sort of it's not a debate in this, you know. It's good to just listen all the time for these things. It's good practice.
It comes up a lot. You're right. In everyday life, it comes up more than you think. I used it straight the other day. My wife was saying the stove is not level. Like, what are you talking about? She's like, when I cook, it looks like the oil's all going to one side. So I got to jack up the stove.
Yeah, I said to me, one of my friends has gone to France skiing, and I said, "How long's the flight?" It was about an hour. How far? And I asked him how far it was. So I brought up distance, the flight. You know how long that is in linear. Time and linear distance, and then I didn't. I could have brought up the what altitude will you be flying at above sea level on your trip to France. So you can do it in every single aspect of life.
What you could have said was, you could have said, do me a favor. When the plane levels off, just check how long, time-wise, that you're flying in that 30,000 feet. Well, you want me to check that? No, just check it out. So I'm doing a little experiment.
Yeah. So I'm going to start doing it more and more, just in normal everyday conversation, but not getting into just pointing out how, that's above sea level. Did you know that? But you're talking about a height above sea level and that distance on maps, that linear distance you're talking about. All right, yeah. And just psychologically, I'm implanting all the measurements for them in the mind.
I actually did that the other day. There was a plane. It's like by me, there's like a place where you can learn how to fly. The students from Auburn University. Right? So they take up flying there, and the plane flew over, and it's about maybe I'd say 5 miles to the landing area. So I was like, look at that plane. What do you think it's about? How high you think that is? At least 5,000 feet in the air, right? Yeah. He's going to be traveling that for about another 5 miles before they start going into the descent. Yeah? That was something to think about, right? And leave it at that.
Yep.
I feel like I'm with Nathan with this. I want to leave it there and let them come to this conclusion on their own. Put everything out there and let them come to the conclusion.
That's only one step removed. You want them to come to that conclusion. It's still you wanting them to do something, isn't it?
I'm hoping that specifically about my son, so yeah.
Sure, but I'm hoping that in time people will reach a point of indifference. If you know how a clutch works, you suddenly don't feel the necessity to correct the bullshitter who's describing how a clutch works incorrectly. You just roll your eyes, don't you? Because tomorrow you'll still have to fix clutches. Yeah? So, does it matter that he's a bullshitter? He's not going to fix any clutches, is he? He's not a mechanic. Clearly, he's not talking about it correctly, so he's obviously not a mechanic. So it's inconsequential, the fact that this bullshitter's lying about it. If one day, when you're actually at a party, he's there again, same bullshitter, and someone's talking to you about the car you've just fixed for them, and he happens to be earwig in the conversation, then you'll, get to lord it over him how stupid he was the other week when he was bullshitting about clutches? Again, so what, you get to sniff your own farts by lording it over a bullshitter? That's really all that's happening, though, isn't it? When you break it down, it's all self-indulgent tripe. You wanting next man to understand what you understand is really just an extension of you wanting it confirmed by him believing as you believe. Now, like I say, at some point in the near future for us on this panel, we will all reach a point of enlightenment and indifference. Like, okay, whatever. Because you know better. Now, it's all quite new to most of us. But that apathy, I think that's the correct word, is what John currently has. There's a certain level of indifference to refracted curvature currently in terms of how he behaves. Because it doesn't matter. It's literally inconsequential. What, do you think it's curving? All right, okay. So what? It'll still be measured flat, won't it?
I think we all reached that level, though. To be honest.
A level of indifference. You wouldn't care if they converted or not, or if they further down the line eventually recognise it. You want them to recognise it for themselves. All those sentiments are sentiments of you wanting them to see it like you see it.
No. You mistook what I said. You ain't paying attention. Driving in my car. So who am I talking to? My son. That's it. Think I care if the guy down the block knows? I care if the guy working with me knows? No, I don't.
I think Nathan's hit the nail on the head though with this lording over. We've all done it, including myself.
Yeah, of course.
You want to get yeah. And that'll be probably the most difficult thing for most of the people to stop doing, as a normal reaction, lording over them, telling them exactly how it's measured, and you're going to listen to me explain this and tell you until you understand this fact.
Sit
and
right
I'm not
down
gonna
here
stop
and listen to
talking
what I
you.
say.
Yeah.
Sit right here now. No, the worst time was when I was debunking the globe and I knew more than them. That's when you really feel superior. Come to the measurements, I really don't think you can, because what are we talking about here? Measurements? If that makes you feel superior, then there's something wrong.
Yeah, I feel superior based on my
measurements.
I feel superior based on my skin deep sex appeal. That's how I feel superior to people. Not because I know Earth's flat. We all measure it flat anyway. Me, I'm just a hunk of man.
That's funny. Yeah, but with my son, I just had a little thing with him for the longest time. He didn't say nothing. I just asked him about the guy, Wes. I forgot his name again. He's some Christian guy that debates. And I said, I want to have a conversation with that guy because I think he's the type of guy that'll listen. Oh boy, it was like he had 2 years of pent up stuff. Because he just started flipping from the back. He's going to tell you the same thing I tell you, that you're not understanding how Genesis is written. It's written in poetic form. He's going to tell you the same thing I've been telling you. I'm like, whoa, where did all of this come from? I thought we came to common ground with the flat earth being measured.
It's not only measured, it's only measured. Sea level is just the natural earth that we dwell atop, and it's level. So we've had to work around that from day one. Everything's worked around that sea level. Most of the instruments, well, definitely sea sextants, are designed around sea level. Tool is designed for that purpose of the flatness and levelness of the sea level.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Talk about the tools a lot, but everything's designed around the fact that sea level is level.
Yeah, I thought that I made great strides with that. I guess I was freaking wrong. Unless it was his last ditch effort of just resistance. He was like crazy stuff he was saying from the back. Then I said, I'm like, Jacob, Genesis it's very easy. It's straightforward. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. That's nothing poetic about that. No analogies. It's just beginning of creation, and it's obvious what's going on. Trying not to use the verbiage that where you say, like, you could read Genesis and you don't see a globe anywhere. So I'm trying to step away from that and just read it for what it is. Right? It talks about a firmament, so we'll discuss that. But everything inside the firmament. Now you got the stars, the moon, the sun, and that's all above the ground. So we're talking height now. So this is all a flat plane that's being described in Genesis.
Well, it's like some of the videos we've covered from normies explaining how latitude's measured from inside a globe on the plane. I mean, got to show somebody that and show them what's actually taking place. There is an elevation angle from a plane. they're saying it's inside a sphere, which is absolutely what I've just said before. Ridiculous. That's people saying we're measuring from a horizontal plane to get latitude measurements, but we're doing it inside a sphere. This is what's happening to humanity, and this is what their belief is, that they're inside a sphere on a equatorial plane, measuring elevation angles. It's absolutely insane.
You want to get together and like we'll form the anti-flat, anti-globe, anti-flat earthers, and we'll run around and we'll attack normies for measuring the earth flat and try to get a tramp stamp on them.
Every example of Earth measurement is like John said before, and we've been saying it for ages, it requires a horizontal plane to measure from. They will tell you that. It's not they. I'm not even going to say they. That's just how it is. There's no us and them. There's no us and them now. It's just the way it is. It's
just us as a people, right?
Yeah, the people. This is how humans measure. There's no you, there's no me, there's no anti-flat Earth, there's no anti-globe. It's just us as a whole on Earth, measure Earth flat. We're all as one.
Right. So
we are the world.
As a group, we can all get together and go attack the people who are just measuring Earth as conspiratards and make YouTube put a tramp stamp on anybody that's measuring Earth flat.
Yeah, could be, right?
Let's do it to ourselves.
John's mirroring my disdain for the guy with the map channel. So what John's doing is quite clever. Getting a lot of compliments today, John. So where I had complete disdain for the lack of tramp stamp on the map making channel guy, what John's saying is, well, the opposite of that, to contrast it, is to say, well, they should have a tramp stamp. Just measuring Earth flat, right? Well, not just measuring flat. What a bunch of conspiratards to lean into it in the other direction. So just for measuring Earth as it's measured, you get a tramp stamp? Suddenly the whole system falls into disarray because it's an absurd system. It is, but it's only when you have someone like John contrast it by saying, well, let's see if we can get normies a tramp stamp. What's that? You took a journey and used a map? Flat Earth idiot.
Thanks for explaining it to us, Nathan. Never gotten it.
Oh, man. Neil.
He knows I'm only messing with him. Got an audience. Even though it's the Uncut and After Show, there will be people listening that may not get it. So it needs that explanation.
Right, I'm going to round out. With that, another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.